This real story was sent in by Mark, a college student living in Indiana. His house sat right at the edge of a quiet stretch of woods. During the day, everything felt normal, peaceful even. But once the sun went down, those woods took on a different energy, like something was watching. Behind the house was a patio, and under it, a hot tub. And that's where things took a very dark turn. It was Saturday night, March 29th, just after 12:30 a.m. Spring break was ending, and school was about to start up again. Mark was hanging out with his closest friends, Kyle, Keenan, and Derek. They were in the garage playing pool, blasting music, drinking, and joking around. It was their last night of freedom, and the vibes were good. Then, Kyle had the idea to hit the hot tub. It was cold outside, and the thought of relaxing in warm water sounded perfect. They all agreed. They threw on their swim trunks, grabbed their drinks, and headed out. They were laughing, talking, and completely unaware of the time. Everything felt normal until it didn't. Suddenly, they heard it. Snap, snap, snap. The sound of sticks breaking in the woods. It wasn't fast like an animal. It was slow, deliberate, like footsteps. Human footsteps. They froze. Keenan tried to brush it off, saying it was probably nothing. The rest laughed it off nervously and turned the music up, but the tension didn't go away. And then, about 10 minutes later, a man walked out of the woods. He stepped into the soft glow of the patio light, tall, dressed in a long black coat, white sweatpants, and oddly, a gaming headset. His eyes were wide, his face completely blank. The guys freaked. They started yelling at him, asking who he was and what he was doing there. The man raised his hand slowly and said, "My name's Seth. I'm 33. I heard you guys laughing and I just wanted to join." The group stared at each other, confused, creeped out. Mark told him to leave, but Seth didn't. Instead, he took off his coat, then his shoes, then his sweatpants. Now standing there in just his underwear, he climbed into the hot tub. Nobody said a word. Mark instinctively pulled out his phone, not to record a prank, but because the moment felt surreal. He needed proof. They started asking questions. Where did you come from? Do you know anyone here? Seth gave the same answer. I just heard you laughing. Then, Seth said something that made everyone's blood run cold. He casually admitted, I'm a child. The mood shifted instantly. The guys jumped out of the water and started yelling. They dragged Seth out of the tub. He didn't resist. He didn't speak. He just stood there, dripping wet, staring at them. Then, without a word, he slowly walked back into the woods. They ran inside, locked every door and window. Some tried to laugh it off, but Mark and Kyle couldn't. Something didn't feel finished. 15 minutes later, Kyle said they should go back out and lock the hot tub cover. Mark hesitated, but agreed. They grabbed flashlights and stepped into the cold night. That's when Mark saw it. Lying next to the hot tub, a phone. He picked it up. The screen lit up. Whatever he saw on that locked screen made him drop it immediately. He wouldn't say what it was, but it terrified him. They rushed back inside, now fully on edge. Then, a tap, tap, tap on the window. Mark already knew who it was. He pulled back the curtain, and there stood Seth, pale, soaking wet, eyes wide. That same creepy smile frozen on his face. He didn't move. He didn't speak. He just stared. Mark screamed for Kyle. Kyle ran in and called the police. Mark grabbed a bat and opened the front door, yelling at Seth to leave and take his phone. Seth didn't say a word. He slowly walked around the house, right back to the patio window, still staring inside. Mark shouted that the cops were coming. Seth simply raised one hand and waved, then turned around and walked back into the woods. The police arrived minutes later. The guys told them everything. The officers searched the woods and eventually found Seth just standing there, watching the house from a distance. They arrested him for trespassing. Everyone thought that was the end. But a few days later, Mark saw something on Snapchat. A girl who lived nearby posted a video from her home security camera. It showed another man, not Seth, trying to break into her house in the middle of the night. And that's what haunts Mark the most. Seth wasn't alone. There might be more of them, and they might not be done. A few winters ago, 3 high school friends, Beck, Matthew, and Tyler, decided to explore a sewer tunnel at the edge of their neighborhood. It sat under a small creek near some empty office buildings. At night, the place was pitch black, silent, and eerie. They joked about the tunnel before, how creepy it looked. But this time, they actually went in. They brought sleds to make it look innocent in case anyone stopped them. And someone did. Just as they parked, a police car pulled up. An officer stepped out, saying someone had seen them on the security cameras. Thinking quick, Tyler said, "We're just sledding." The officer stared for a moment, then told them to leave. So they did, but only for a bit. 30 minutes later, they came back, this time parking farther away, out of sight. They hiked down behind the buildings. The air was freezing. Their breath hung in the cold as they stood at the mouth of the tunnel, massive, round, and completely dark. They turned on their flashlights and went in.
Oh, look at the date, dude. 6/19/19. 19. Oh my god,
dude, how did we even find this? Oh my gosh.
First, the tunnel was dry, silent, except for the slow drip, drip, drip of water deeper inside. The walls were covered in graffiti. Most of it looked old, except for one thing, a date. 6/19/19. Spray painted in large red numbers, fresh, unsettling. The deeper they went, the colder it got. Their flashlights barely cut through the darkness. Icicles hung from the ceiling, some sharp, some as thick as a bat.
keep it slow, keep it slow.
Oh, I see a light down there, see that?
I think I saw movement, wait. What was that? Hello?
Should we keep going?
Should we keep going?
Bro. Dude, and these icicles can like impale you, dude. Look how
They heard it. Crack. A deep, echoing thud, like something huge slamming against stone. It didn't come from them. It came from farther down, too far to see, but close enough to feel. They panicked, tripping over each other, slipping, scrambling back toward the exit. Outside, they were breathless, shaking. That's when Beck realized he dropped his phone. The others begged him to leave it, but Beck wasn't letting it go. He grabbed his flashlight and went back in. Reluctantly, Matthew and Tyler followed. But something was off. The air felt heavier, colder, like they weren't alone.
Matthew, go over here this way.
no, dude, that's where we fucking heard the noise.
Shit, dude, do I have to go back there?
You're going first, bro. It's your
Yeah, we're
phone.
not leading the way. Yeah, somebody else lead the way, please.
No, it's your phone.
Silence was unbearable, like the tunnel itself was holding its breath. Then, a scream. A long, distorted wail from deep in the tunnel. They didn't wait. No talking, no looking back. They just ran. They didn't stop until they were in the car, speeding home. No one said a word. But later that night, well after midnight, Beck's doorbell rang. Twice. His dad answered the door. No one was there. So, was it a prank, or did something follow them out of the tunnel? They caught it all on video. But that night still leaves one question unanswered. What the hell was waiting for them in the dark? In April 2022, a man named Connor took a short-term construction job far from home. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid well, and he needed the cash. His longtime friend Jim was also on the crew, which made it an easy yes. 3 months of decent pay, away from the chaos of daily life. Now the site was deep in the countryside, remote, long winding roads with barely a house in sight. He craved peace, quiet. So one Friday, he packed up for a solo camping trip. There was a narrow trailhead just 5 minutes from his bunk. By sunset, he was deep in the forest, letting the stress melt away. Then he noticed something strange. The scent of burning wood drifted through the trees. At first, he thought, just another camper. But then, he saw it. A faint orange glow flickering through the trees. He got curious and left the trail. That's when it got weird. Dozens of rusted shopping carts were tied to trees with ropes, some dangling, some twisted like a scrapyard jungle gym. It didn't feel like a campsite. It felt ritualistic, designed to unsettle. Above a roaring fire, someone had hung an old charred duck ornament. Inside it sat a melted baby doll, limbs warped from heat. Connor took photos, not for the police, just to prove it was real. Connor felt watched, but instead of leaving, he kept going. But the sun was gone, and he needed to set up camp fast. By 9 p.m., he had a small fire going and a steak foil pack roasting in the coals. He relaxed, smoked again, and then, at 4 a.m., something woke him. The fire was low. The air in his tent felt ice cold. Then he heard it, whistling, slow, off-key, eerie, floating through the trees. Connor froze. The whistling stopped. Then came footsteps, light, fast, circling his tent. And suddenly, his body snapped into motion. He bolted out of the tent, boots half-laced, adrenaline surging. But the footsteps had come from the trailhead. His way out was now blocked, so he ran deeper into the woods. Behind him, more footsteps. More than one person, too many to count. He ran until his lungs burned, until branches tore at his arms. Finally, he dove into the underbrush and hid. He lay still for what felt like hours, heart pounding in his ears. Eventually, the footsteps faded. At sunrise, Connor crawled through the forest, bleeding and shaking. When he saw the trailhead, he didn't stop. He ran all the way back to his accommodation. The police? They took his report, promised to look into it. Never followed up. To this day, Connor believes whoever chased him that night were the ones who made that twisted altar of carts and dolls. What they were doing, he doesn't know, and he doesn't want to. But the one thing he does know, if something feels wrong, it is. If you enjoy chilling tales and eerie encounters like this one, don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon so you never miss a new upload. Turn on all notifications, because trust me, the next story might just be darker than the last.